Where's the next? There we go. Colonel. Where's the colonel? Here's the colonel. Colonel, you gotta come and stand here. Stand right here.
Don't see the furniture, we'll never see it.
All right, I think we're all set. All right. First of all, let me thank the library for hosting us today. I understood they opened it for us, and I normally open it, so that was very nice. And I also want to thank the Keansburg elected officials who are here. We've got the mayor who's going to speak, George Bob. We also have Deputy Mayor Crusoe who's here, and Artie also, Councilman Artie Pallone, and Councilman Tom. Where did Tom go? Oh, he's over here. Okay. On my right, of course, is the mayor, and then we have freeholder Tom Arnone and freeholder Serena Damasio. So thank you for coming as well. We came to the library today, Mayor, because I was afraid it was going to rain and we were going to have this beautiful overhead. But actually, it's sunny and we can see the dunes and everything behind us. And I remember coming here. What did you have? Like you had this was the center for the cleanups, right? And there wasn't much damage. I mean, there was some, but there wasn't a lot. So this was one of the places that didn't have a lot of damage. I'm going to introduce Colonel Paul Owens after I speak, but I just wanted to start out by saying that we really appreciate what the Corps is doing here, as well as elsewhere in Monmouth County. In the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy, many of you know that we made a major bipartisan effort to pass the Sandy relief package, and it wasn't easy. We passed the Senate, we couldn't get it passed in the House, then we had to start all over again in the House, and finally we did get it passed and sent to the President for a signature. But one aspect there are a lot of aspects of that Sandy relief bill, much of it public assistance that goes to the towns to rebuild their public infrastructure, like their boardwalks or their streets. And also there's the money that goes to individual homeowners and small businesses under the Community Development Block Grant, which actually the governor sent the package to the federal government, and we're hoping that that'll be approved in the next few weeks and that money will be available. But what we're talking about today is that part of the Sandy relief package, in the billions of dollars, that is being dedicated to the Army Corps beach replenishment and flood control projects. And as you know, over the years, we've had different projects, including this one in Keansburg, that actually dates back to the 70s, that have been in place and that have provided protection in the event of a hurricane or a nor'easter. But in the last few years, it's been difficult to get very much money for any of these projects. I mean, I think in the last few years prior to Hurricane Sandy, we were averaging maybe $10, $12 million in our area per year, which really wasn't adequate to do a lot of the projects that needed to be done. The difference today is that we have hundreds of millions of dollars that are available for these projects. And it's kind of, I guess it's kind of sad to say that, you know, that the hurricane is the reason that we're able to get this kind of money, but I am pleased to announce today that we do have a significant amount of money for several projects. And the reason we're in Keansburg is because Keansburg is one of the priorities and likely one of the first ones to be done. But we're also going to talk about the beach replenishment along the Atlantic coast from Sandy Hook to Manasquan, which will also be done beginning this summer and into the fall. So in terms of Keansburg, if I could start out with that and talk about it since we're here. The Keansburg project really dates back to the 70s, and it has provided protection over the years. But prior to the storm, it had deteriorated quite a bit. And your mayor and councilman here in town, you know, for several years before Hurricane Sandy, have been working with me to try to get the project moving again. It's an existing project, which means it doesn't have to be reauthorized. We just have to get the money to do the work. We estimate that this work will cost about $39 million. It's going to be in two parts, one for the beach replenishment and one for the levees and the pump station and the other things that need to be repaired. And we need to do it quickly, and I appreciate the fact that the Colonel is willing to do it quickly and start in the next few months. because the borough was exposed. Even when you had the nor'easter, I don't know, a month or so ago, you had flooding again. The most visible part of the damage was where the dune was washed away. For what, about 200 feet there near the amusement area. So literally now, if there's any kind of major storm, it just comes right into town. There's no dune. And so this project involves beach replenishment, dune repairs, and also repairs to the levee. I'm just going to mention the, just a little bit of the breakdown. The Corps plans to award the beach replenishment work on May 7th, and then it'll commence shortly thereafter. And that should be done within 180 days. And then they're going to award the contract on May 29th for the levees, which would begin sometime in June. And that would take about 90 days. So this one should be done by September in Keansburg. The other thing is it's 100% federal fund, which is, we put that into the bill to make sure that it would be 100%. And since it's an ongoing project, it can be 100%, which is significant for the town because otherwise it would only be 65%. And you'd have to kick in some of the county, and this town would have state. So nobody has, it's 100% federal dollars, which is significant. But I did also want to mention the Atlantic coast as well. As I said, the Atlantic coast section from Seabright to Manasquan is probably at least $100 million. That'll actually be the largest beach replenishment project in American history. Is that true? That's what they tell us. They tell us
it's one of our bigger projects.
Yeah,
and the biggest one we have in New Jersey. So.
I'm pretty sure. Somebody told me it was the largest beach replenishment project not only in U.S. history but even in the world. But I'm not going to go back to Rome and whatever. So I'll leave that alone. But as far as the Seabright to Manasquan, pretty much the same timetable. It'll begin in the summer, and it'll be finished a little later. That will take until the first of next year because it's longer and it's in 3 different sections from Seabright to Monmouth Beach, Long Branch, and then to Maysbury Park, south to Manasquan. But we figured that should be completed also by the end of this fall, and it's also 100% federally funded. And some people had asked me what happens in the summer when they're working on it. They'll basically close like 1,000 feet of beach as they're working on it. So there will be beach closures while they're working on it, but they estimate only about 1,000 feet at a time. And if anybody complains to me and say you're closing the beach in the summer, my answer to that is, look, we've got to get this done because we don't want to have another nor'easter or hurricane come in the fall and the work is not in place. So that's it. I'm going to introduce Colonel Owens now. I want you to know he's just been fantastic in terms of working with us on this. The Corps essentially has the discretion now to decide where to do these projects, and the fact that so many projects are going to be done in Monmouth County, I think is significant. I didn't mention Port Monmouth today, Colonel, because we announced Port Monmouth on another occasion a few weeks ago. And it's not stay on TV. No, I don't. Port Monmouth people are concerned about whether it's going to happen, and it is. And we already talked about that, so I'm not going to. Since you're here, maybe I'll repeat it. But the Port Monmouth one would start possibly this fall, if not next spring. Okay. But since that's not, I better talk about this before somebody says that. The other projects in Monmouth County, Port Monmouth, Union Beach, others, they haven't actually been constructed yet. In other words, these are being done because they were constructed, so that's why they go first, because they're already there. We're just going back and doing them again. But Port Monmouth was ready to go out as the next project. If it hadn't been for the storm, it would have started this spring right now. But because of the storm, it will start hopefully in the fall, if not next spring. The beach replenishment part would be done first, and that would take maybe the fall or next spring. But then the levee, because they actually have to construct the levees from scratch, it doesn't exist. That will take a few more years to complete. And as far as the others, we're working on them. And the Corps you know, is looking at Union Beach as another one that we may do, and others along the bayshore as well. But since they haven't actually been constructed, some of them have to finish the design and the engineering before they actually do the construction. So we'll take questions after, but let me thank
Back on Keansburg.
and introduce.
Charlie.
Well, that was a great rundown, Congressman, and I'll just fill in a couple of little key details that may be worth elaborating on. But first, I'd like to thank, you know, I'm extremely gratified that we have the opportunity to do a project here that, you know, I think when I was talking with Jen Tallhauser, who's our engineer that's been working very hard on site with the local community to try to work out the details of this. I think the last time we did a beach replenishment was 1968. And the levee system was completed in 1973, so the whole system was completed in 1973. And so 1968, last time work was done. There's a lot of project erosion. So Congressman Pallone mentioned 2 dates. By September, we'll have what we think is the initial project, which is the repair. And that'll return to the conditions that were pre-storm here in Keansburg. And then we're also, as part of the bill that Congress passed, this is an incredible opportunity to allow us to return to the design conditions that were back in 1968. So that's pretty incredible. It's a lot of sand. It's over 1 million cubic yards that we're going to place from Hughes Creek down to Thorns Creek across the ocean, the bayfront here. Do you guys call it bayfront?
Bayshore.
The bayshore. Here and
you're doing so much, you can call it whatever you
I got to bayshore. Okay. Across the bayshore, and that's you know, that's going to be great, and that's going to take us a little longer to get to the design conditions. But by January, we think we're going to be able to do that. So that leaves us, as we talked about, probably one season of storms that we're going to continue to be a little bit exposed to things. But by this time next year, you should have a whole system in front of you that's going to be protected. Excuse me, and a great system for you. So again, thanks to the cooperation from the local community on that, and then to Congressman Pallone and his colleagues for having for two of us to just to be able to stick with getting that bill through Congress.
Can I get your number too?
Yeah, well, I'll definitely give you that. So, and Jen can provide any details that you want. So, along the Atlantic coast, we're going to do Seabright to Manasquan. That's our project. We're going to do it in 3 phases, just as Congressman Pallone mentioned. The first one is Seabright to Monmouth Beach. The second part will probably be from Asbury Park down to Manasquan, and the third part will be from Long Branch. But all of that, again, with both the repair and the restore, should be done by January of next year. And that is 4.6 million cubic yards of sand. That's a lot. We're going to have a lot of activity this summer, and just like Congressman Pallone said, I think bear with us as we work with our environmental groups and the local communities, and you're going to see activity out on the beach, and hopefully that's a good, positive sign. And, you know, certain sections will have to close off at certain times in order to keep progressing across the beach. You all have probably seen these projects, maybe not in Keansburg, but I know along the Atlantic coast they've seen. We just did a renourishment recently at Monmouth Beach down there. So, right. So, I think that's all I really had to say. Jen, am I forgetting anything?
No,
you need to add anything? Okay. And again, thanks to the group. Our local sponsor here is the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, and they're helping us through the permitting application to allow us the access we need to get the work done. So.
What's the height of
the dune height? We think we're going to go about 10-foot berms here. 10.8 feet is design level for berms. So I don't.
About 150 feet out.
Okay, so 150 feet out, 10 feet back is the design for the berms.
We'll take questions, but let me just have the mayor say something, then we'll take questions. The one thing the colonel said, though, which I neglected to say, and I did want to stress, because I'm not sure you all understood, is he was stressing that we're going back to the original design. So, for example, you know, before Sandy in Keansburg, they, you know, they had lost a lot of beach, and they already had damage. So we're not just going back to where it was before Sandy, we're going back to the original design of the 70s. And the same is going to be true for the Atlantic coast as well. So, they won't go back to where they were before Sandy. They'll be the full hill or whatever it's called.
Frank remembers that, I know.
Yeah. Mayor George.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming out. I'd like to thank my fellow council members for being here, the Colonel, Freeholder Arnone and Damaso, and especially Congressman Pallone. This project is a significant project to the residents of Keansburg. Up until around 7:30 on October 29th, our town was dry. We had a little bit of flooding in certain little areas, and then the breaches occurred at both Lawrence Avenue and behind what's known as Sammy's parking lot, and the results of that were devastating to us. We don't have a lot of structural damage that you would see in other towns, but we have significant amount of damage inside of homes due to the flooding that occurred because of these breaches. This project, which the Congressman has been great on this, and I'd like to thank Congress on that and the President and Congressman Pallone for actually pushing this. For the last 9 years, I've been working with Congressman Pallone, and he's been trying and trying, and finally he's been able to achieve something that we've both been fighting for. When I say both, that means council and our local officials and Congressman Pallone to get this project completed. Had it been restored, as the Congressman said years ago, and been funded, we probably wouldn't have been in the situation we're in, as well as some other towns, but our community probably would have stayed dry at that time, and unfortunately we wouldn't have been here today, but you know, it was a wake-up call for a lot of people, and we thank the Congressman, and we can't thank him enough for everything he's done. He was here that morning with us, saw what had happened, and you know, he sat in the car with us. He was on the phone to the President's office right away, right there, and I can't thank him enough for everything he's done. And I met the Colonel a couple weeks later at a meeting hosted by Congressman Pallone in Aberdeen, and he told me this was a priority, and as soon as the funding became available, I would be on top of it. And Colonel, thank you again. You're a man of his word, and Congressman Pallone, man of his word. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming out today.
Some questions if you have any.
I have a question. I live in Fort Monmouth. Sorry, everybody. I just wondered if you know, from Hughes Creek to Compton Creek or Belford Creek, what the replenishment would be for that area? Is that whole run going to be done, or?
Here comes Jen. So we do, it is a beach replenishment project there. So Jen, you want to tell us a little more details about that?
Heading east of Hughes Creek, we don't have plans to place sand at this point. All the work will be done from Hughes Creek to Thorns Creek, headed west.
So
the Port Monmouth, I'm sorry, the Port Monmouth project.
From Hughes east to Compton.
I don't have the specifics on that design right now, but we can certainly get you the information.
So that, as we talked about, that project is was authorized but not constructed. So we are reevaluating what needs to be done with that. We do not. We're working on the places where we have existing projects first. So that's one of the reasons we're coming to Keansburg and doing the Sea Project in North.
We originally had like $7 million appropriated for.
What we had, what happened is this: before Sandy, we had the money just for the beach, and I don't want to give you the wrong impression. Before Sandy, every year I'd gotten $2 million and banked it, and we had like $6 or $7 million, and that was to do the beach replenishment. That would have been done now in the spring. But we didn't have the money for the other 80 or 90 million to do the flood control project. The beauty part of this now is that they got the funding to do the flood control. So what they're saying is that the beach replenishment, you know, some people said to me, why are you doing that first? Because that's not important. Well, we're doing it first because we had planned to do it, and that's all we had the money to do initially. And that could start as early as the fall, or if not in the spring. It'll be very quick. I mean, it would be just like this, you know, maybe a few months. But then the larger flood control project, which is all, you know, brand new, which would be like another 80 or 85 million. That'll start right after, and that'll take a couple of years to complete, because the way I understand it, it's very labor intensive to do those levees and everything. It's not like you could just lay sand, so it may take a few years.
We do see kind of 3 phases for the overall restoration of the shoreline. And, you know, the first phase is to get the projects that were originally completed and done. So that's what we're doing now. The second phase is to get the authorized but unconstructed. So we probably, you know, after we get these done, and we're working in parallel to relook at this plans and specs and do all the things that need to be done to verify that existing authorized project to make sure it's still going to accomplish its purpose against this. And the other thing that's in the bill that Congressman Pallone sponsored is to look at future storm events and potentially incorporate some things into that that are going to make it stronger for future events.
You know, I also didn't mention, which I should, because I don't mention, and somebody said, well, what happened to that? Is dredging, too. You know, in the next, relatively soon also, we're going to, as part of the Sandy relief, we're doing the dredging in the Shrewsbury and the Navasink, the Leonardo State Marina, the Channel, and also the Shark River Inlet, the Federal Channel. And we're still moving ahead with Union Beach and some of the other bayshore projects, but some of those haven't actually had the engineering and design work completed, so that has to be done. But that can also be funded with this money too.
And I can show you a little more if I get my notes after the press conference.
One other question, is there any plans for any groins or jetties on the front here?
No.
Because I read where there's supposed to be a terminal groin, whatever that means, terminal groin, I don't know what that means.
Oh, in Port Monmouth?
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have. I didn't bring the Port Monmouth stuff today. There is the Port Monmouth project does include some groins and some lengthening of the fishing pier. Yes, there is some part of that in there.
So, but out here, not in Keansburg. You report out here, so there's no groins in Keansburg, but Fort Monmouth. I can show you a little more details after the meeting.
Any other questions?
I'm just curious, you bring up levees. I don't know, you said they need to be constructed. I mean, I think we're all pretty familiar with replenishment dues mean. But how do levees come into play?
Here in Keansburg, you had some damage to the levees, right?
That's right.
So it's all part of an overall system. It's engineered to keep the water out. And I think you know, do you want to talk about the levees here in Keansburg, or are you talking about the levees at Port Monmouth?
Keansburg, I live in Keansburg.
Over by Keys Creek, there was, the levees were overwashed, and there's a lot of debris that washed up along the levee, so we'll be removing the debris and then fixing the levee. Also, there's a wind wall near the tide gate structure that will be repaired.
Okay, so it's not additional levies or new levies.
That's
It's just repairing the one. It's just
So for the vast majority of this, it'll be just doing replenishment.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Just one question, with the replenishment of the limbs and stuff, will there be a reformat of the flood maps
Oh, you mean after?
after everything's completed?
That process usually follows, and I think FEMA is more in charge of that process than
Yeah,
us.
let me answer that question, because I get that a lot. Because, and again, I'm shooting from the hip here, but because the flood maps were assuming the Keansburg project, which already was there, I don't know, I doubt there would be much change to the flood maps in Keansburg because they assumed the project. I think in Port Monmouth it might be different though, because in Port Monmouth the project wasn't there. So once the Port Monmouth project is completed, you might get some major changes.
Yeah, in East Kingsburg, there's 54 houses in the B zone.
Yeah.
With that, after the project is done, they revert to the A zone.
Yeah, I mean, they will look at it again after the project's completed, but I just think, Mayor, that because those maps assumed that the project was in place, that it's not likely there would be major changes. But you could see major changes in Port Monmouth once the project's completed, because that's going to make a big difference.
You know, since there was, I don't know when the last time the mapping was done in terms of floods.
About 5 years ago.
Yeah, but the
And
recent
it was
one
based
came
on
out in the news and
deteriorated.
everything.
Right.
He changed everybody.
Yeah.
You're either in A or B.
Yeah, I mean, the Colonel's right, because it's a much better and up-to-date project, there could be some changes, but I just don't think it's likely to be as significant as it is in Port Monmouth. Yeah.
I'm just concerned about the rates on the flood insurance.
But they won't do that till the project's completed. They won't do that now. They won't do it till the project's completed.
Will they create access to the beach once they do what you both up? Will they have walkovers onto the beach?
I don't think it's any different than what you have.
That's correct, it'll be the same. Okay, it's the same.
Because I know, I'm also from East Keansburg, and at the end of Ocean Avenue, they cut right through the dunes. And I noticed, I just arrived there after Sandy, and there were all seashells out into the streets where they came through there. Now, are they supposed to be cutting through the dunes there, or? They're not.
The walkovers should not create any kind of vulnerability.
She's saying
I think
there's a
that's what
space
No,
between
there's
the
a
two.
space, they actually cut
through.
through, access right up to the beach, there's no, I know
You don't have to go
that
over
in
it.
East Kingsburg at the end of Hudson, there's a, you know, we have funding where they're gonna do a step over it, but they're gonna do it all along.
So most of the public
But they
access,
actually cut through these dunes, which is,
most of our public access designs are walkovers, they're not
right.
cut through, so.
Right, but I think the people actually did that themselves. I
So
know
would-
after
I would-
Hurricane Donna, which they took me out in the boat, I was getting old. After that, the Army Corps of Engineers did this, and since then, we have not done what it is.
I can tell you that the borough has the baywalk, a wooden boardwalk that has the access down to the beachfront. There will be no intended breach or gaps in the dune system across the front.
So will they eventually fix that at the end of Ocean Avenue, will they build that back up then there?
Yes, I mean, we'll work with local authorities. Now, sometimes local authorities want to leave breaches in certain places. It's like a railroad track that comes through, and there'll be some kind of device that closes that, designed to close when we know a storm's coming. But right now, I know of no places where we plan to leave openings yet. But in other places, we have done that in local coordination so that they would know that they have to close it when the storm's coming.
Well, also at the end of my street, I'm on the corner of Thompson and Dakota, is the dike where Hughes Creek is there. And I guess Port Mallonside never got the wall, but we get no water where we are because of the dike and because of the dunes. You know, we're in between and we get that. I mean, I've lived in my house almost 40 years and I don't even cut it. So.
Okay.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to end. Go ahead.
All right, since we're talking about raising the dune back to where they were in 1973, why would we have to raise our houses? And we never had any flooding where I am now. I'm on Morningside, and I didn't even have any damage during the storm. And they're talking about mitigation on the houses.
I mean, look, there's a lot of reasons, and I don't know. First of all, if you want to object to the map, you can. You know that it's still a draft, all right? You can still say you like it and you think it should be changed. I'm just assuming that because this was largely in place before the storm, that the maps assumed that this Keansburg was in place. But it's possible that once it's completed, because it is a better one, they might change the maps. But I don't want to give you false expectations. I think if you don't like the map, you should probably raise that and object to it now. And then, you know, take it through the right channels.
I just want to add, one of the questions, I had one of those questions, a lot of the areas that were dry, why they have to raise. One of the answers given to me by the FEMA representative was, we didn't get the rain that we were supposed to get during the storm. We had a lot of rain during Irene, which caused all the flooding. This storm, we didn't get the rain that they were expecting, 12 inches possible rain. If we had gotten that, I'm sure, and I don't mean to say this in any way, I'm sure your area would have been flooded as well. Because of that breach and because of the way the water distributed, we had no place for it to go. So we're lucky we did not get that rain. It kept a major part of the town by Creek Road dry because the floodgates were empty and they were pumping. But if they had gotten that rain, all that water would have came up from Middletown and Homedale into the creek area, Wingate Creek. And we would have had a lot of devastation in that area too. The rain kept us from flooding even more. So that's one of the reasons that I've been told is we're going up as much as we are because we didn't get the rain that they were expecting.
That type of intrusion of water isn't going to be 11 feet. It's going to be a couple of feet. The 11 feet is from the bay, from the surge.
Correct. You are correct.
The sand up there is going to obliviate any kind of surge coming in. So raising up the homes 11 feet is ridiculous.
There'll be thousands of people tripping down the stairs, going up 2 flights of stairs out there.
You need a whole new first aid
You're
system.
gonna be running ambulances back and forth every day.
You can see the house on Forest Avenue.
It's absurd.
Absolutely, but you know, it's, and I'll give you a prime example, when they changed the elevation maps, roughly 5-6 years ago, post Katrina, we fought to have them realigned and for having people get flood insurance. Had I not gotten flood insurance because of that, my house, I would be $50,000 in debt right now because my home suffered 18 inches of water in it. And I lost my first floor, and if I had not had flood insurance, if FEMA had not required that, a lot of us would have been out of a lot of money. And I know it's, you know, raising 11 feet is extreme. You have to take into effect where you are at sea level and compared to how much you have to go out. You don't have to raise your house exactly 11 feet. You may be already at 8 feet of sea level.
Close to it for this town, because no part of this town is that high. But if you get 13 or 14 feet out there, you're going to get feet in line in the town.
Sure.
All right, well, thanks a lot, really, we appreciate it.
Please follow me, everybody up here.
Thanks for coming.